So there's a bit of a story here. I'll read this through and then we'll answer it. So, guy sent it through has got an important meeting with a colleague he's been struggling with. They got one more project left together. This colleague does not formally supervise them, but they're both principal investigators of the company that they're in. Um, he's still pushing me to work on his preferred topics and to just do coding for him rather than do research, which would be destructive to my career. He left me with minimal budget to solve a very difficult problem and not enough to hire staff to help. Talked to my boss and he's supportive of my preference to instead do research and make some source code, have a separate module for this company, and also to hire staff. It appears from what we looked at the contract that my preference is legal. Right. Try to declare independence on Thursday. Of course, the colleague tolerates nothing less than complete subservience and has plenty of power as far as connections and purse strings, so I'm concerned as to how it will go. I realize that even for my survival, if he finds some loophole to force power over me, I have to flee. Working under his authority this year has resulted in my having regular self-deleting ideation that I've only managed to self-medicate by getting back into hard drugs. She's now off and recovering. But if I drop the project, he'll sue me for breach of contract, so I'd have to find a job in Asia or somewhere. Any specific or general suggestions and advice for the meeting live with the colleague and the boss? Okay, so I'll sum up my understanding of it is that you're working with someone who technically is of equal status to you. They aren't your direct supervisor or your boss, but he's been throwing his weight around to make things the way he wants it to, which is bad for you and your career, and you would like to push back and do what you think is right and what is legal according to your contract. And then I see some potential catastrophizing here, which is that something really big and bad will happen if you push for this, and that you'll have to flee and that everything will go down the toilet, which may or may not be true. I don't know the situation well enough. But I do get a sense that this is a person who's taken a mile 1 inch at a time. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like you've come to this situation because of a history of you backing down to him, um, what you call forcing power over you. So what I love is that you're finally going to have a meeting maybe to stem the tide here and correct this. Because this is how I'd frame this is his power over you is something you've given to him. Now, yes, he might have leverage with money or connections or whatever, but in the end, someone can only have power over us if we step back, right? It's us stepping back that creates the power. One way to look at it is, say, with governments, like for governments to actually have power, the citizens have to obey the laws and pay their taxes. If all the citizens decide to stop doing that, the government's now just a small group of people against millions, right? There is no power left anymore, right? If the military refuses to do what the government commands, the government's now just a bunch of people in suits. Their power is gone, right? So power requires the movement on the people who are being subdued. So you have to back down for them to have power. If you don't back down now, their power is just an illusion. So what you've clearly, for either legitimate or fancied reasons in your head, you think that if you were to step up and stand up for yourself, and you've probably thought this throughout the entire time, that big bad things will happen to you. And because you weren't willing to face the risk of those big bad things happening to you, you stepped back and gave him that power. And this is similar to how people are corrupted in the prison system. You ever wonder how, like, a prison officer ends up bringing in drugs or helping someone escape? Well, it's 1 inch at a time. First, you do little things that are uncomfortable for the prison officer to reject or push back against. And then once they've done those little things, you just keep leveraging up until now the prison officer's done something that he could get in trouble for. And then you use that against him to do even bigger things. So it sometimes takes years, and a dedicated prisoner will put in the patient time and work to do this slowly, so the person never feels it happening. It's just taking a mile 1 inch at a time. And the reason that the prisoner has the power over the officer is because the officer is not willing to go into a meeting with his boss and say, they got me. I've been corrupted. I want it to stop now. And accept whatever the consequences are. And as a result, even worse things happen, and then they eventually get caught and punished anyway, and punished even worse because they didn't come forward. The reason I bring that up is because in a situation like this, there is no ideal, comfortable way out. Right? It's already come to this, and you have to get your head around like working with the options that are actually available and not hoping for a good one. See, one way to frame catastrophizing, like worrying that all these big bad things, like he'll sue you for breach of contract, is that that stems from a hope that something good will happen. Right? It's a kind of like the dark side of the moon. Like whenever we hope for stuff, we automatically set up catastrophic fears. So when you tell yourself that you're a good person, your brain goes, yeah, but you're also an awful person. It's like you provoke it. So when you tell yourself like, oh, I hope this just goes well, or like I hope I can just do what I want with this project, or I hope he like respects me, your brain immediately goes, well, what if he sues you? What if he does this? What if he gets you fired? What if he puts a black mark on your career? And you're so afraid of that that you step back. So the in terms of suggestions and advice for the meeting, the most important thing is for you to be able to get into that meeting with a nothing to lose mentality. There's lots of techniques and tips and stuff for negotiation, and I'll actually message you privately with some content to help with that. But ultimately, your attitude's going to be the biggest factor. I've done a lot of negotiating in difficult like HR situations like this back when I was a manager, and I've also had some people just pay me to come in for meetings and stuff. And it's the person who's most worried about losing something that has the least power. All right. So whatever it is that you're worried is going to happen, you need to find a way before Thursday to make your peace with it happening and actually have the preparations in place for that happening. Like nothing is more powerful than a person who doesn't need what you've got, right? I remember first seeing this when I went with my younger brother, who's one of my role models for confidence. He went to go buy a new car. And we went to the car yard or whatever, and the guy came and they were dickering a bit, and he offered him a price. And my brother's just like, nah, it's too expensive, and just walked away. And I thought it was a tactic, and I realized we've walked all the way out of the place and we're gone. I was just like, but now you don't get the car. We went to two more places and he had that same attitude. And eventually he got a car for like way too cheap. Like the guy selling it was clearly pissed off about how much that had cut into his commission. And I realized that my brother had something at that time that I was completely unfamiliar with, which is he didn't care if he walked away with no car at all. He was willing for that to happen in order to get what he preferred. And because he was willing, he got it. And had he not been willing, he would have paid too much for a car because the guy at the car yard, he's got more commissions coming, he's got sales coming. He doesn't need this one sale. He's got nothing to lose with you. Or should I say, he's got slightly less to lose because he wants to make at least some sales. Whereas if my brother came in with, I don't need a car at all, I certainly don't need your car, then my brother's actually the one in the power position. And that was, watching that happen, I was like, wow, what is this? I could never do that back then, at least. But I really wanted to understand what I'd witnessed because it was so powerful. Like, my brother was just this untouchable thing. Like, the other guys were, their sales techniques and stuff were so high pressure and manipulative and just so uncomfortable that you just wanted to say yes so it would end. But my brother just didn't have that discomfort. I wanted to say yes, but it wasn't my car. Um, so you've got this thing where this guy's in your head, he's got this power over you. Oh, I'm gonna sneeze, I think. There's a couple of points you need to keep in mind. First off, he's not your direct supervisor. It really helps to know what the exact legal conditions are before you go into a negotiation like this. to have them written out. You don't need to remember shit. You don't need to impress people with your legal knowledge. Have the contract with you. Have the relevant bits highlighted. You could even have a printout of like the hierarchy of the business to show unequivocally that he's not your boss or your supervisor, that he has no legal status, power, company, culture power over you. So you go in there with a clear idea of like what you're entitled to legally, and then you just stick to that, regardless of what chaos they do on their side of the fence. You just go, no, it's not legal, so I'm going to do this. And you just hold that line. That's what I do in a situation like this because generally when people are like bullying and, dominant in this way and they sort of pull on purse strings or connections to get their way, that kind of thing, there's a bit of a smoke show happening. They're making it look like they've got more power than they actually do. It's the Bernie Madoff or Jeffrey Epstein style of control, where you make it look like you've got other people in your pocket to get people into your pocket, and then you use them to make it look like you got people in your pocket. You look like you got money from other people, but you got their money by making it look like you got money from other people. This is the power game. It's all an illusion, right? And if you can see that and go, look, this is just another primate. This is just a needy, greedy human being playing tricks to get what he wants. And unless he's going to shoot me right here in this meeting, he can't do shit to me. He can't. Bearing in mind that even if this was to get into some difficult legal battle, you can deal with that later. You can bring in lawyers and stuff. Maybe one day you might even admit defeat and back down, but you don't need to do that today. Let it escalate. Have a plan for moving to Asia. All right, have a plan for restarting your life elsewhere. At least the gist of a plan, like, okay, I've got my backup option. Like I used to have this when I first started my coaching career, as most new coaches go through. I had a lot of kind of duds. I had people that didn't show up to sessions that weren't really into coaching and so on because, I didn't know what I was doing. I had lower standards, so on. And so about 50% of my sessions were no-shows, which was really frustrating for me. I'd have myself all prepared for the call and stuff, and like 5 minutes in, like, oh, fuck, I don't think he's coming. And then I'd get ghosted, or I'd get some crappy excuse, or I'd just be disrespected, like they just didn't take my time seriously or whatever. And for a long time, this really bothered me. I just felt like I was powerless. I felt like I was at the whim of these people who are just like, do whatever they want, get away with it, and I'm sitting here suffering, missing out on doing stuff. And then I came up with this rule. If someone's 10 minutes late, the call is cancelled and I'll write a blog post instead. Right, so the most I will lose to someone is 10 minutes. And not only will I only lose 10 minutes, there's something I'm looking forward to doing if they don't show up. So it's actually like I'd actually get relief if the 10-minute mark passed. I'm like, okay, well, that was clearly a bad fit person because they didn't show up and they didn't message me or whatever. And now I've got 50 minutes to write something. I've been dying to write about this thing. So I set myself up with this pivot that took all the power back. I'm like, you can't ruin my day. You can steal 10 minutes. That's the most you can do to me. And then I'm going to take over and make decisions for myself. And even if you come on in minute 11, I'm like, you're going to have to reschedule, mate. You missed out. I'd suggest very strongly before you go into this meeting that you have that pivot. If everything turns against you and everything's ruled against you, and there's everything that's out of your control doesn't go in your favor. What will you do to make this of benefit to yourself? What will your pivot be? Right? How will you get out of this or do something else in a way where you're like, good, fine, option B. I quite like option B. Right? Because that's the nothing to lose mentality. That's the real secret to it is, those guys who go out to a bar and all the girls love them because they're not needy. It's because the guy knows he's got a girl at home, right? This is why girls always love you more when you're in a relationship because all that neediness is gone. Okay, you got options. So you don't have to wait for options to occur, create them. Um, so let go of the idea that this guy has power over you. That's an illusion in your head. It's a story you've told yourself, actually based on your own back steps. to his behavior. Because you didn't stand up to him strongly enough earlier on, you've created the illusion that he has power over you. But you can destroy that illusion right now. From now on, no more back steps. Even if you're in the wrong, no more back steps. Right? This guy could be like, look, the law says this and I'm doing it. And you'd be like, you can try. Just stay calm, stay cool. The main thing is don't take the bait. In this negotiation that you're about to go into with this guy, keep in mind that you don't have to say anything. You don't have to answer any of his questions. You don't have to defend yourself against any of his accusations. You don't have to acknowledge a single word he says. That's nothing to lose. Like, you're going into this meeting, all you have to say is what you feel like saying. All you have to do is ask for what you want to ask for. You don't have to even acknowledge his existence if you don't want to. Right? Know that power. If he says, well, you did this, just ignore it. Don't defend yourself. Just be like, anyway, so I want A, B, and C. Right? It should be like awkward how much you're ignoring him. Right? That's how you take your power back, is go, you know what? You're just another primate. You're just a monkey ranting and raving because you want the banana. And I'm just going to talk to this other guy who's being more rational. No problem at all. Right? Because his power over you is going to be in the little inches he takes when he gets a reaction, when he makes you answer a question, when he accuses you and you defend yourself. That's where his power lies. But if you don't respond, he's powerless. Right? I hope that helps. Like I said, like, let go of the idea that some beautiful, wonderful, good, fair thing is going to happen, and instead make it that you don't need it to happen. You got a backup plan. You'll go for what you want in this meeting, but if you don't get it, you're going to go with option B, which nobody else can do anything about. That's what option B needs to be. Cool. Thank you for showing an interest in the Nice Guy Brotherhood, a group coaching community program for nice guys and people pleasers who want to become more confident and assertive to do better in their relationships and their careers. This is also for any man who wants to become more masculine, more bold, more honest, and more authentic. So in this program, we focus in on a lot of the people pleaser and approval seeking tendencies that hold men back from achieving full self-confidence and healthy relationships. Things like avoiding conflict, trying to fix other people's emotions, molding yourself to other people's preferences, failing to stand up for yourself, not going for what you really want, and not knowing who you really are. The goal, through the support of myself and the other members of the community, is to help you build the backbone to stand up for yourself, to stop caring what other people think of you, to stop getting lost in your thoughts and your feelings, and learn how to act decisively based on your own set of core values rather than what everybody else wants you to do. So we're looking to replace things like conflict avoidance and procrastination and trying to please others with going for what you really want based on who you really are. So we address all these issues through a number of methods. Firstly, we get together each week for a group session. Now, part of that is what's called hot seat coaching, which is somebody gets on the mic with me and we do a coaching session in front of the others, and everybody gives their feedback and support, and we can deal with specific issues that's coming up for that person in their life in relation to building confidence and overcoming nice guy syndrome. We also have group discussions during these calls. We share links and resources, feedback, questions, and everything we can do to support each other's growth. And then also, alongside these group calls, you get access to my full online library of self-development courses, which includes things like building rapport, setting boundaries, and learning to confront your fears. Now, if you're interested in the group, we have a deal where you get your first month for just $1, so that you can try it before you buy it and get a sense if it's really right for you and if these are the people that are going to help you achieve your goals. Once your first month is up, if you want to continue, then we have a monthly membership subscription. It's $250 US per month for full access to everything. This includes the entire archive of recordings from all the calls that we've had so far. And if you come along with a friend, both of you will get a 50% discount for joining together. There's what we call a zero risk guarantee. If at any time you're unsatisfied with the program, you can quit and you'll get your money from the last month given back to you, no questions asked. So come and check it out. If nothing else, for $1, you get access to everything for an entire month. No risk. I'll even return that dollar if you're not satisfied, because that's how confident I am that this program is going to change your life.